Chapter number 6 is all about the external influences on the business activity. What do you mean by external influences? External influences को हम yes में normally as a pestle analysis के तौर पे पढ़ते हैं. Pestle analysis क्या है? P-E-S-T-L-E pestle या P-E-S-T-E-L जो भी कह लें. So pestle analysis is an abbreviation और abbreviation किस चीज़ की है आपकी? P for political, E for economical, S for social, T for technological, L for legal and E for environmental. So ये 6 एलिमेंट हैं, एक्सटर्नल एलिमेंट हैं जो किसी भी बिजनेस की कंडीशन को, एक्शन को, स्ट्रैटेजी को चेंज कर सकते हैं. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल इकोनॉमी में ग्रोथ चल रही थी, आपने ऑब्जेक्टिव रखा बिजनेस ग्रोथ का, आपने ऑब्जेक्टिव रखा इंक्रीज इन सेल्स का, लेकिन इकोनॉमी कुछ टाइम के बाद रिसेशन में आ गई और जैसे इकोनॉमी रिसेशन में आई तो उसकी वजह से ऑब्वियसली अब सेल्स की मज़ीद इंक्रीमेंट नहीं हो सकती, ग्रोथ नहीं हो सकती. सो इन सिचुएशंस में हम प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइजेशन या इंक्रीज इन सेल्स का ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं रख पाएंगे. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज एन इकोनॉमिकल एलिमेंट. इसी तरह पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन ऑफ अ कंट्री also have a negative effect on a business decision. आपने ग्रोथ की डिसीजन ली लेकिन पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियो चेंज हुआ, कोई पॉलिटिकल सेंटीमेंट बिल्ड हुआ या जो नई गवर्नमेंट्स आई उनके जो फोकस थे वो किसी डिफरेंट इंडस्ट्री पे थे, अब आपकी इंडस्ट्री पे नहीं थे. प्रीवियस गवर्नमेंट आपको सब्सिडाइज कर रही थी, आपको सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड कर रही थी. करंट जो गवर्नमेंट है वो आपको सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड नहीं कर रही, जिसकी वजह से आपकी बिजनेस की स्ट्रैटेजी में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ एक इम्पैक्ट या चेंजेस ज़रूर आती हैं. सो ओवरऑल दीज आर कॉल्ड एज द एक्सटर्नल इन्फ्लुएंसेस ऑन द बिजनेस एक्टिविटी. अब इसको वन बाय वन ज़रा डिटेल में देख लेते हैं कि वन बाय वन हम देखेंगे इस पूरे पेस्टल एनालिसिस के एक्सटर्नल इन्फ्लुएंसेस को. सो जो फर्स्ट इन्फ्लुएंस हम डिस्कस करेंगे उससे पहले वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ प्राइवेटाइजेशन एंड द नेशनलाइजेशन. प्राइवेटाइजेशन किसको कहते हैं? व्हेन द गवर्नमेंट ओन्ड बिजनेस इज सोल्ड टू द जनरल पब्लिक और प्राइवेट हैंड्स में दे दिया जाए, दिस इज कॉल्ड एज प्राइवेटाइजेशन. इसके ऑपोजिट है नेशनलाइजेशन. जब प्राइवेट सेक्टर बिजनेस is owned by the government, इसको कहते हैं nationalization, right? So privatization क्या है? When the government sector is converted into private sector. और nationalization क्या है? When the private sector is converted into government sector. अब पेस्टल की अभी हमने बात की. P for political, E for economical, S for social, T for technological, E for environmental and L for legal element. लेकिन आपकी बुक में सबसे पहले वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द लीगल एलिमेंट, तो इसलिए लीगल एलिमेंट्स को पहले ज़रा डिटेल में देख लेंगे. सो लीगल एलिमेंट्स में वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग अबाउट हाउ द गवर्नमेंट्स कैन इंटरवीन इन अ बिजनेस थ्रू द लॉ और लीगल एलिमेंट्स. पहला एलिमेंट है आपकी एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस? गवर्नमेंट्स एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस में इंटरवीन करती है थ्रू रिक्रूटमेंट एंड टर्मिनेशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट. गवर्नमेंट्स लॉ क्रिएट करती है कि व्हाट शुड बी द प्रोसेस ऑफ रिक्रूटमेंट एंड व्हाट शुड बी द लॉ ऑफ टर्मिनेशन. अगर आपने किसी को टर्मिनेट करना है तो उसका एक सर्टेन प्रोसेस है, प्रोसीजर है जिसको आपको फॉलो करना है. इफ़ यू आर नॉट फॉलोइंग अ टर्मिनेशन प्रोसीजर इट मे बी कॉल्ड एज एन अनफेयर डिसमिसल, जिसको आप कहते हैं अनफेयर डिसमिसल. उसको आगे जाके डिटेल में देखेंगे. नेक्स्ट एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस में इंटरवेंशन थ्रू हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी लॉज होती हैं कि दैट यू मस्ट हैव टू प्रोवाइड द सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट्स टू द एम्प्लॉयज़. उन तमाम एम्प्लॉयज़ के मेडिकल टेस्ट्स होना ज़रूरी हैं, उनके पास प्रॉपर गैजेट्स होना ज़रूरी हैं, एमरजेंसी एग्जिट्स होना ज़रूरी हैं. सो दीज आर द लॉज विच द गवर्नमेंट्स मेक और अपग्रेड and that obviously impact any business. Minimum wage rate is also a law set by the governments. If the minimum wage rate increases from a certain point, उससे क्या होता है? उससे आपके businesses की cost increase होती है. जैसे for example, if the minimum wage rate in Pakistan was suppose 30,000 a month and it has now been increased to 40,000 a month, तो क्या होगा? सो ईच एंड एवरी एम्प्लॉय इन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जिसको आप मिनिमल 30,000 पे कर रहे थे, obviously the first level of hierarchy employees, अब you will have to pay them 40,000 per head at least. This is going to increase your cost by approximately 10,000 a month. And if you have got like 100 employees, that means 10,000 multiplied by 100 each month is the addition of the cost. So government sometime intervene through the minimum wage rates को जब revise किया जाता है, इसकी वजह से the cost of the businesses increases. Then trade union rights and responsibilities. Trade unions क्या है कि they are going to put a pressure on you. The association of the employees, the group of the employees जो आपके ऊपर प्रेशर क्रिएट करते हैं कि यू हैव टू इंक्रीज द सैलरीज, यू हैव टू गिव द प्रॉपर इन्वायरमेंट्स. तो गवर्नमेंट्स उनके राइट्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज को भी डिफाइन करती है, एंड वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस दैट इन डिटेल एज वेल. सेकेंड इंटरवेंशन लॉ की अदर देन द एम्प्लॉयमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस इज थ्रू लॉ ऑफ मार्केटिंग एंड कंज्यूमर राइट्स. हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू मार्केट द प्रोडक्ट एंड व्हाट आर द राइट्स ऑफ द कंज्यूमर्स. इन दो बातों के अंदर गवर्नमेंट्स नॉर्मली अपग्रेड देमसेल्व्स विद द पैसेज ऑफ टाइम. इसको भी आगे जाके डिटेल में देखेंगे. एंड थर्ड इंटरवेंशन थ्रू द लॉ इज द लॉ एंड द बिजनेस कंपटीशन, दैट मोनोपोली क्रिएट नहीं करने देंगे, एक सर्टेन मार्केट शेयर से ऊपर नहीं जाने देंगे किसी बिजनेस को. एनी बिजनेस में नॉट बी चार्जिंग अ वेरी हाई प्राइस ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट और एबनॉर्मली हाई प्राइस ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट. थ्रेट ऑफ एंट्रेंट को मिनिमाइज किया जाएगा सो दैट न्यू बिजनेसेस मस्ट come in and start their business in the country. So all of these elements are taken care under the law and business competition practices. अब employment practices में हमने पहली बात की थी recruitment and termination of employment. So one by one point देखते जाइएगा. Recruitment termination of employment में the first thing is signing of an employment contract is the legal requirement. कि जब आप employment contract का create होना और उसमें साइन करना बाय बोथ ऑफ द पार्टी इज अ मैंडेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट बिकॉज इट इज अ लीगल डॉक्यूमेंट बिटवीन द एम्प्लॉई एंड द एम्प्लॉयर. एंड एनी टर्म दैट इज मेंशन्ड इन द एम्प्लॉयमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मस्ट बी फॉलोड एज वेल. अगर एम्प्लॉयमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे कुछ सर्टन जॉब रोल्स एंड ड्यूटीज लिखी हैं एंड वी बीइंग द एम्प्लॉई आर नॉट डूइंग दोज ड्यूटीज, we can be fired. On other hand, if an organization is asking us to perform any certain duty which is not in an employment contract, we can negate easily. उस ड्यूटी पर जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में गिवन नहीं है और हम नहीं काम करते तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आपको फायर नहीं कर सकती. Because we are only supposed to do the tasks which are mentioned in an employment contract. So employment contract is an important document. Second point, minimum age of employment is defined by the governments. And in UK we have got a National Minimum Wage Act 1998 which defines the age of an employee as well. Third, maximum working hours in a week is also defined. और मैक्सिमम आवर्स इन अ वीक डिफाइन होने का मतलब क्या है कि अगर आप उससे ज़्यादा काम लेंगे किसी भी एम्प्लॉय से, सो दैट एम्प्लॉय मस्ट बी पेड एन ओवर टाइम. So this is going to create a pressure on the businesses that they cannot ask their employees to work overtime without paying them. Fourth, discrimination against the people is not allowed. Especially when the hiring process is done, it must be transparent. No one should go to the courts and tell them I was not hired just because I belong to a certain race or ethnicity. Merit की basis पे you will have to hire a person and you must have to have a justification कि why you have hired Mr. A, why not Miss B. So discrimination against the people dealt through an Equalities Act 2010 in UK is basically devising all of these discriminations and tell us about that if the organization is hiring some person, it must be on truly on the basis of the merit, not on the basis of caste, creed and culture. Then unfair dismissal claims. So if you are firing an employee, laying off an employee without any certain reason, that is called as unfair dismissal. Or any job which was not mentioned in an employment contract और वो एम्प्लॉय उसको रिजेक्ट कर देता है तो भी you cannot fire that employee because that was not written in the employment contract. Possible unfair dismissal claims कौन से हो सकते हैं? Number one is the pregnancy. Especially in the last 4 months of the pregnancy of a woman, the organization cannot fire that employee because in the last 4 months the employee is supposed to go on a leave, and that is going to be a paid leave under the act. So you just lay off an employee just because you don't want to pay that person and hire an alternate. This cannot be done. So if you are doing this, that in the last 4 months of the pregnancy, if you are laying off an employee, it is going to be called as unfair dismissal claim. Even before that, you cannot do it. Second, refusal to work on a holiday. So a holiday means a religious holiday. So if somebody has to go on a leave on a certain holidays according to their own religions, you cannot fire that person on the basis because it is their right to enjoy their religious holidays. Refusal to work overtime. On this basis, you cannot fire a person. And overtime is an option which can be opted by an employee if he or she wants it. It is not a mandatory requirement that a business needs an overtime and it asked an employee to give an overtime on any cases. No, it is an option for the employee. Incorrect dismissal procedure. A certain procedure is designed and devised by the governments. We have to follow that. Being a member of a trade union. You are a very good leader and the management believes that if they fire you, the trade union is going to break off or the trade union will not be able to put a pressure on the management. If on that basis, on political grounds, if they are laying off an employee, that is again an unfair dismissal. Health and safety laws may governments again intervene that there must be a proper safety equipments like fire extinguisher available. You might have seen in your schools and the colleges that fire extinguishers or the fireballs are available and it is displayed and available on the main corridors because that is a legal requirement. Protection from dangerous machinery and materials. If an employee is exposed to a certain dangerous machinery or equipment, there must be the proper helmets or safety equipments available with that person. There must be an adequate breaks given to the employee. Adequate breaks related to the food break, related to the washroom breaks must be adequate enough. Maintain a proper workplace temperatures. Especially if you are working in the factory, it is the job of the organization to keep the environment as temperate, as normal as possible. If any certain organizations go through the employment practices or follows the health and safety laws, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Take 2 minutes and go through each and every advantage and we will start discussing this one by one. Alright, so the first advantage given over here is worker feel valued. That leads towards the motivated workers. That leads towards a quality output. That if you are providing the proper safety equipments to the employees, that means they will feel important, that you are taking care of them. And if they are feeling important, they will be motivated and will give you more and better quality products. Number 2, reduction of the accidents leads towards lesser illnesses and lesser leaves by an employee. At that point, again, the productivity of the organization will be increased and lesser absenteeism will be seen. Again, at the end of the day, the advantage is for the organization. Third, if you are providing proper safety equipments, taking care of the employees, it will attract best employees towards your organization. People like to work in the safe environments. And this will lead towards intellectual capital. What is intellectual capital? The human resources who are loyal with you, who are experienced with the field, and who can give you an input that is a quality input on the basis of their experiences. So in short, we call them Babe of the organization, the experts of the organization. So an employee who's working for like 5, 10, 15 years with an organization becomes loyal with it. And since they know the culture of the organization, they might be giving the feedbacks which are important for the organization. They are called as intellectual capital. So if you're attracting creative people, the chances are you will have more intellectual capital in your organization. A disadvantage: cost of following recruitment, selection, and promotion procedures. That if you're following an employment practices, obviously it comes with a cost. While recruitment, you will have to go for a proper procedure. While selection of a person, you will have to interview each and every person to make sure that you are not discriminating. If you are promoting a person, you have to be very careful that you are not discriminating. So if you are taking care of each and every minor element, it comes with a cost. Second, cost of paid leaves, sickness, holidays, and maternity leaves, again comes with a cost. That if you are not laying off an employee who is getting pregnant, especially in the last 4 months, you're supposed to give a leave of 4 months to that person, and obviously you may have to hire an alternative person for these 4 months, and you will have to pay that person as well. So this comes with a cost. Last, cost of additional staff to avoid crossing over time limits. For example, you need 2 hours of extra work. The current employee can work overtime and do that job, complete that job. But since the employee has rejected that he is not going to do an extra time, that means you will have to hire a part-timer for this task as well. Again, it will increase the cost. Next, so minimum wage rate in UK has increased for the last many years, and the reason was the public pressure, the trade unions pressure, and with the increase in the wage rates from 6.5 pounds to 9.15 pounds within few years, and they were pushed to increase their wage rates, and obviously increase in the wage rate have an impact on the business costs as well. Then we have to discuss about a concept of a trade union. What is a trade union? As we have discussed, that an organization of the workers or employees formed mainly to negotiate with the employees on various employment related issues and enhance the quality of employment in an organization. So trade union is a group of employees. Those are going to negotiate with the employees as well as the employer, you can say. So normally trade union negotiates with the employers, the managers, on the behalf of the employees, and vice versa. On the behalf of the management, they negotiate with the employees as well. So they are the bridge between the employees and the employers. It enhances the quality of an employment in an organization. When people say they are heard, they work more, they work better. There are certain rights and responsibilities of the trade unions which you can go through by yourself. Take 30 seconds to 1 minute, go through the rights and responsibilities, and let me know if there is any point which requires a discussion. So, sir, बात पूछनी थी. All right. So let's move ahead. Law of marketing and consumer rights. So what is consumer right? कंज्यूमर राइट के अंदर हम वी हैव टू फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड द कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन. सो पहली स्टेटमेंट को देखिएगा. इट सेज दैट व्हेन यू आर इन अ शॉप बाइंग समथिंग द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज बिटवीन यू, दैट इज द कंज्यूमर, and the shop who is the seller. So what is called as a contract? Whenever we go to any shop and buy any equipment, buy any stuff, and get a printed bill along with it, that printed bill shows that we are in a contract, right? Second thing, if a contract exists with the consumer, like exists, then the consumer, the buyer, gets a lots of legal rights to ensure that they get what they paid for. These rights are known as consumer protection rights. So in simple words, whenever we are buying anything from any grocery store and we have got that printed bill means that we are in a contract with the seller. And if we have got the contract, that means all of the consumer protection rights can be enjoyed by the consumer. So consumer protection rights को enjoy करने के लिए it is not necessary that there must be some specific agreement between us and the seller. That bill which we have, the printed bill which we have from the seller, shows that we are in the employment with the Consumer Protection Act. So generally there were some few questions which we discussed in the last classes. इसको जरा quickly देख लेते हैं. So understand the law of the consumer rights. The first question is, you have bought a pair of jeans last week but discovered when you got home that they were the wrong size and you want to take them back. What do you think your right is? You can have a refund, you can exchange that, or you have no legal rights. So when you are buying a pair of jeans and you discover that it's a wrong size, it is not necessary for the shop to take back the jeans. Why? Because you were supposed to verify the size, not the shop. That is why most of the shops have got their try rooms. The size is the legal obligation of the consumer, not the seller. Here, as a consumer, we don't have any right, according to the Consumer Protection Act. Second, you have purchased a television yesterday, but when you install it at home, it didn't work. You return it with a receipt of the shop. The staff agree that it's faulty, but say you have to accept a repair. What are your rights? You can demand a refund. B, you are only entitled for a repair. C, you will have to pay for a repair. The answer is, where an item is faulty, as long as you return it within 30 days, you are entitled to a full refund. That especially we're talking about the non-perishable goods, electronic goods. So when you are buying a certain good, by default, as per the UK Consumer Act, you can get a refund within 30 days. No questions asked. That is your right. Any good that you buy must be satisfactory, fit for the purpose, last for 6 months, or come with a manufacturer guarantee. As per the consumer rights, you are entitled for all of these three elements. So generally saying, let's skip the rest of the 2, 3, 4 questions. Why? It was just here for the sake of an understanding, nothing else. So just to give you an idea that the Consumer Protection Act is here for us. That whenever we are buying the goods from the seller, it helps the consumer most of the times. Then the third, law of marketing and consumer rights. What is law of marketing and consumer rights? Like consumer protection laws, short-run cost versus the long-run benefits approach. So how you are going to evaluate this consumer rights question? You will always say in a short term, when a business is following the consumer rights, most of the times they will have to give a refund to the customers. Most of the times they will have to deal with the customers in positive way. This will always come with a cost. And businesses have to suffer a loss maybe or lesser profits because of these costs. This is a short term or a short run cost. Whereas in the longer run, if the businesses follow consumer protection, the chances are it will increase its brand image. So what are the problems? Problems are increased cost, increased chances of legal action. If you are not following the consumer rights, also you can face a legal action. A continuous process to keep up with an updated consumer protection law. That consumer protection law keeps on updating after a period of time. We being the manager have to keep a close eye on these laws because a new law may come in and we have to follow it. But if we are following the laws, their better reputation is generated. If we follow the CP laws, consumer confidence increases in us that they know that we are taking care of the consumers. This will lead towards increased sales and growth of the business. It reduces risk of multinational companies taking over the market with quality products. If you as a domestic business is offering a very amazing service plus a very strong consumer protection, why would consumers go to a multinational brand which is just coming to your country? You are already a brand. That is normally the problem with the domestic businesses, that they do not offer such services and multinationals do. That is why consumers shift towards the multinationals. If the locals or the domestic businesses start offering and following the consumer protection rights and laws, the probable chances are, if the product is of the same quality, if everything is same, it is very less likely that the consumer will shift themselves to the multinationals. So it will act as a barrier for the entrants. Next, third law, law of the business and the competition. Free and fair competition. So law of the business competition actually tells us about that there should be a free and fair competition. There should not be any monopoly in the country. No business should influence other businesses or pressurize other businesses. So if there is a free and fair competition, the advantage is the wider choice, that is an increased competition, leads towards pressure to innovate. When the businesses are in competition, they always try to keep their costs down. And in order to keep their costs low, they have to upgrade themselves, upgrade their processes, innovate the products, innovate the processes. So most of the innovation comes because of the competition. If there is no competition and the businesses know that their product is eventually going to be sold, even if they are going to upgrade or not, this is going to negatively affect the innovation by a business. Second, competitive pricing with a sustained quality. If there is a competition in the market, the chances are we will have a competitive price, a lower price being offered to the consumers, and the quality will be remained and retained as well. Third, facing competition leads towards efficiency, and efficiency can lead towards making any business multinational in the future. If we are not having a free and fair competition, which is called as monopoly. Number one is the full line forcing. What is the full line forcing? Full line forcing is when the large brands force you to place all of their varieties in your racks, whether it is getting sold or not. Let me give you an example for that. For example, we are dealing with juices, and a company like Nestle comes in and asks you to place all of the flavors of the juices. But you know that 70% of the people prefer the standard tastes like mango, apple, suppose. But the company will pressurize you and push you to keep rest of the flavors in the same ratio, just like you are having mango and other ones. But you know that in your area maybe other flavors are not getting sold. People don't like guava, people don't like pomegranate or others, but you will be forced to place these as well. Why? Because they will tell you that if you are not going to place these flavors, we will not sell it to you, and you are going to follow their lead. Why? Because you know that there is no other alternative. So when the monopoly is there, when the competition is not there, sometimes full line forcing is pressurized by the companies. Next, inferior products. If there is no competition, companies know that even if they are going to sell the inferior product, low quality product, it is going to be sold at the end of the day, since there is no competition. Increased prices and lower margins for the retailers. If there is no competition, they will charge you the higher price. We have a very famous example in Pakistan, the big three: Toyota, Suzuki, Honda. All these big three kept on charging the highest prices. The reason being they combined together knew that there is no competition in Pakistan. And then lower margins for the retailers. The bigger the brand, lesser the competition. That means they are not going to give good margins to the retailers. That if there is a non-branded product, they might be giving 10% on each product, but the bigger brand is going to give 2 to 3% on each product. That lowers the profit margins for the retailers. And last thing, cartelization. What is cartelization? That in the case of monopolies, the big companies make a cartel. Just like I gave you an example of big three. These three joined their hands together and made a cartel that they will not let any other company come in to this country. This cartel make a price fixing agreement that if I am going to increase the price of Honda, you will be increase the price of Suzuki, and you will be increase the price of Toyota as well. So when there is an agreement between the competitors that we together will increase the prices in a country, obviously since there is less competition, no one else can offer the lower prices. In that case, the cartels will be able to charge the higher prices. For example, the famous cartel in Pakistan is the sugar cartel, which we always talk about. That this sugar cartel, all of the sugar manufacturers join their hands together, fix the price of the sugar, and from day onward they can charge the higher prices. Governments cannot do anything because they are not even in a competition. They know at the end of the day these are the ones who are going to produce it. So if there is no competition in the market, these are the things which we may have to face. And the last thing of the day, that is the predatory pricing. What is the predatory pricing? Predatory pricing is when you are keeping your prices sometimes even lower than your cost price, just in order to rule out the competitor. For example, if one company is ruling the market, like suppose we say there is no Allpurs in Pakistan, there is only one company which is selling the milk, that is Nestle. Suppose when they see Allpurs is coming in into the market, what they will do? They will lower the price, sometimes even lower than their cost. They are going to have a deliberate loss. Why? Because in the past they have reaped out a lot of profits, they have got cash flow with them, they have got the money, they will deliberately face the loss. Why they are going to do this? Because Allbirds, being new in the industry, cannot afford a loss for a long period of time, because they are just new in the market. So by predatory pricing, they will attract all of the customers, and Allbirds will not be able to survive in the market, and they will leave the industry. As soon as all players will leave the industry, Nestle will come back and start charging the higher prices and enjoy the monopoly. So this predatory pricing is used as a tactics to lower the prices even lower than their cost, which cannot be afforded by the competitors. And for a short period of time, when you grab the customers, attract them, make them attached with you, after some point of time when the competition is gone, you may start increasing the prices again. In India, Airtel was one of the biggest sellers in the cellular industry, telecom industry. But Reliance Jio came in with the cheapest data plans, nearly free of cost. They grabbed all of the internet market or most of the internet market in India. And as soon as they started having the largest market share, they started increasing the prices gradually. And since the consumer became loyal with them, now they were ready to pay the higher prices as well. So sometimes predatory pricing works out. But this only works out when there is a less competition in the market. As said earlier, when Reliance Jio came in, Airtel was the only biggest telecom sector company selling the data packages. There were many, but not at that strong. Since there was not free and fair competition in the market, they enjoyed this element and grasped the market share. So, if the governments see that there is kind of a monopoly, they try to break it through the laws. So, if any business or any market, any country is having a free and fair competition, that always leads towards a benefit for the business. But if there is a monopoly, it only benefits a certain businesses, selected businesses, but not all of the businesses. So this is called as law and business competition. Next day onwards, we will be going through the next concept of social audit report. We will discuss it along with the environmental audit and financial audit. Then we will be solving some of the past paper questions. Then we'll be talking about the technological impact on the organization. Then we'll be talking about introduction of the technology in an organization, what is the process, and then we're going to go for the social influences on the business activity in this chapter. Then last, environmental effect on the businesses will be discussed. So there are still many of the things remaining in this topic, but nearly 50% of the things are done. So since, as said earlier, it is quite a lengthy topic, but we will be discussing that in a little bit higher pace so that the things can be covered easily. So this is all for the day. Inshallah, we'll catch up in the next class with the next half section of the chapter. And meanwhile, I would request you to go through all of the elements once again from start till end. See whether you have developed your own notes or not. If not, you can develop it as well. So thank you very much for time. Inshallah, we'll catch up in the next class then.